Mm, mm. Come make some money. Come make some money. What's going on, Joe?
Hey, how's it
I'm
going?
re- I'm
You
ready to
seem
make some money.
excited.
I'm ready to make some money, man. We've been making people money. I'm ready to still make some more money.
Yeah, I'm ready to make some money this week because even though we've won money every week, Ryan, it hasn't been huge, days for us. So I'm hoping this week we really put some money in the bank account.
Yeah. Yeah. I think we have a good possibility of doing that. Our lineup hit last week. Your pick hit last week.
Yeah,
And FanDuel's going to be a little tough this time around, Joe. And I think the really, really good people are going to be separated from the novices.
yeah.
And I think we're going to be able to break down and show you how to make the best lineup this week because we did not have qualifying. And that really mucks things up because, as you know, Joe, usually with qualifying, some guys don't qualify good sometimes, and that really makes it easy who to pick. But when everybody is based upon standings and last week's finish, well, usually the cream is already at the top, and putting out a lineup is very, very difficult whenever that tends to be the case.
Well, and also this is a totally different setup than what you would see on a road course. Obviously, it's a totally different setup than what you'd see on a mile and a half. And any time that qualifying gets rained out and we get to this point, right, it kind of scares the shit out of me a little bit because we don't know what the teams are showing up with. William Byron should have a good car this week, but he doesn't have any laps on this car, so I don't know what to expect. So you kind of not only do you have to understand what the team's been doing, but also understand that there's a very high probability that somebody that should finish well or run well tomorrow might blow an engine on the fourth lap. So, so
Yeah.
you
I
know,
mean, we literally seen Kyle Larson have an issue coming out of Fontana whenever they didn't have any type of practices
right.
or anything. And, that ruined his entire day. So, I
Which
mean, those things are unforeseen, but
Yeah, and we're gonna get into this, but the one thing that I'm very confused about, and we'll see this when I put the odds up, is the odds today still don't make sense to me because there wasn't qualifying and there is such an unknown going into today or into tomorrow. Why some people have odds that are so low, it just doesn't make sense to me. So we'll get into that though, but I'm sure you're going to get to your lineup first off.
it's right. We're going to start with setting up this FanDuel lineup. I thought I would get a nice little plug there about my sweet hat that I'm wearing. But of course, Joe doesn't say a word, just, rocking the cool new MLB The Show hat and
I'm sorry.
nothing. Just have, nope, nope, that's okay. I hold no grudges.
That's a cool hat, Ryan.
Thanks, Richard. So let's go ahead and look at it. At the very top is William Byron, and for God's sakes, Kevin Harvick last week, Joe, was in the 6,000s and
Yeah.
is now at 13.5.
Yeah. Well,
So,
there's a reason for that. He runs very good at this track, so
yes. And I'm surprised to see Willie be at the top. And I think you're going to allude to the betting odds here in a little bit and might have a little bit of a surprise for you there. I
yeah.
I think William Byron's having a good year, but to be the top at FanDuel at 14,000, I don't really know about that.
Well,
So,
yeah, and we're going to get into it, but doing this as long as both of us have, looking at odds and trying to figure out what your best chances are. Sometimes you just have to listen to Vegas.
good point. They weren't wrong last week. So, we're going to go ahead and look. I'm just kind of diving through Austin Cindric here. He's pretty low at 6,000, starting six. And, Chandler Smith, first time riding in here at this track in a cup car. Ricky Stenhouse is rated pretty high. Then your typical Rick Ware Racing down at the very bottom. Fast
Yeah,
Pasta.
JJ
Uh,
Yaley, baby.
that's right. 2,000, tied with Cody Ware, appropriately. Fast Pasta at 2,500 definitely feels like he should stay at 2,000 because the only thing he's quick at is getting a DNF.
Right.
So let's get to the very, very top. Joe, it should not be a surprise where I'm going to go first. The guy that's had a lot of success at this track, he's starting second. He might end up leading a lot of the first laps if he can get a good start. Not trying to be a homer, but at the end of the day, you look at it. it's pretty simple to put in Kyle Busch.
Yeah.
To look at another thing, and this is what makes this hard, is typically Toyotas have dominated this track. Now, some conspiracy theorists said it's the Toyota Owners 400. Maybe that's why. I'm not willing to play that card. I definitely see where people could come from. But then the other person that does really well here is Kevin Harvick, and he's listed very, very high as well. So, you know how I typically roll. I got my top guy. Well, next I'm going to go with another guy that's starting 21st. I think he has a much better chance of finishing higher than that. I'm going to go Christopher Bell. I'm going to go Denny Hamlin and Kevin Harvick and just laugh at that. See, I mean, starting a lineup like this, it's going to be almost impossible to really get 3 or 4 guys you really, really, really like. You're going to have to make some concessions. And because Toyota is so good here, I got Christopher Bell. It's going to be
So
tough.
if it was me, and I know Christopher Bell is starting 21st, and he's probably going to pick up a lot of spots, right?
Correct.
Looking at this, though, I think because you're looking at 1,500 left on your lineup, you're not going to get a driver that's going to do anything for 1,500, obviously. I think that you split the JGR drivers right in half there. You release both Christopher Bell and Denny Hamlin. You go with Martin Truex Jr., and then that way you could pick up 2 more quality drivers. Because really, I mean, I think Martin Truex, Denny Hamlin does run well here. He was a winner here last year, but Martin Truex has won here a whole bunch as well. I think and if I remember right, a couple years ago, we won back-to-back races, at Richmond. So Martin Truex, it says he's starting 12th there. I think he probably gives you a good option to possibly finish in the top 5 and maybe lead some laps. So that's just my suggestion. Obviously, this is your lineup, but that's probably the route I would go. And so now you got 1,550 to pick up 2 quality drivers.
Now, see, Joe, if I was able to save a couple more $100, I throw in Brad Keselowski, Josh Berry, and I don't flinch.
Well, I think you have to. Yeah, go ahead.
The reason why I'm going Josh Berry, and he showed this at Phoenix, he is a short track driver.
Mm-hmm.
He's starting 30th. He's in good equipment. We don't have to worry about that. And Brad Keselowski has shown a lot of speed, and he's also been driving really, really well himself. So now I go back up here and I look at this again. I'll be honest with you. I kind of wanted to take away Mark Truex now and go Joey Logano, but I don't want to not have any Toyotas. Besides Christopher Bell, that's tough.
So I know Joey Logano can drive on short tracks. It's been and obviously he's won at Richmond. Where hasn't Joey Logano won? But I don't think he's ran well here the last several years. I think Brad Keselowski is an absolute steal at 8,200.
I agree.
He's a past winner. I think that his team is doing a lot better this year. They've been competitive. And what is he starting 24th? I don't think, unless he has an engine problem or he's taken out early, I think he picks up a whole bunch of positions. I think he's easily a top 10 driver tomorrow.
You've done your research as well. Eric Almirola typically does pretty good at this track too, does he not? He's starting 32nd. That's pretty low.
Yeah, his name.
Start getting down here, it gets rough.
The thing that scares me about Almirola is you never know which Eric's going to show up. So, he could be a top 5 driver tomorrow, or he could finish 36th, which is, which anybody could do, but he's not real consistent.
That's what we're going to do right there. Daniel Suarez is in good equipment. I think Daniel Suarez has gotten a bad rap here. He's had a bad start due to a couple things in his control and out of his control. Starting 20th, that gives me a good enough where I'm sitting almost dead center, and I'm using a guy that I think is in a top 3 machine in terms of Trackhouse racing. I don't see him finishing lower than that. I could definitely see him finishing a little bit higher than that. Brad Keselowski, like you said, is going to make me up spots. Christopher Bell is going to make me up spots. Martin Truex has a chance to win it. Kyle Busch has a chance to win it. When I look at it like there, as long as Daniel isn't catastrophic, I like that. The other way I would go with this it was and we'll do another lineup as well. Is I want to take
Well,
Josh Berry and then kind of see what we're looking at the top as well.
Well, and what I'll say is really, if you could pick up, and I've learned this from doing these lineups since I started doing them, and they are really fun. So, if this is your first time listening to us, and you're thinking, what are these guys doing? Obviously, right now Ryan is setting his FanDuel lineups for tomorrow's race at Richmond, and this is more. This is a little bit funner way to put some money on the line. You don't have to, risk a huge amount. What is this buy-in here for this one? $1, $3 buy-in.
Well, I did $9. I was feeling
No,
a
you
little
did,
sparky, a
man.
little
Okay,
spunky,
this
and
one.
did $9. This one's 3.
Yeah, I just looked up 3,000 to the winner. So $9. If you happen to finish in the money, you're going to get a little bit of payout on this one. But what this does, you could buy in. I mean, they have 5-cent buy-ins here on FanDuel, and you could set a fantasy lineup. Basically, you have $50,000 to start with. Each driver, as you could see there on the left, has a price amount. So you have to pick 5 drivers, keep it under those price amounts. If you look to the left there, where you see the driver's name and number, you also see a green number. That is their starting position. So with this, you also pick up points for how many positions they pick up. So if you got a quality driver like a Christopher Bell who's starting in the 21st position, Martin Truex who's starting in the 12th, and you think Christopher Bell is going to be a top 5 or top 10 driver, he's going to pick up points there. You also pick up points for laps led, and I do believe. Do you also pick up points with this fantasy for stage wins as well?
Not stage wins.
Not
It's
stage
laps
win.
led. It's differential from starting spot to ending spot, and then it's just your final
Okay,
starting or final finishing spot.
and then points for final finishing spots. So, this is a good way you're competing against, I mean, anywhere from 500 to 20,000 other people when you play these. However, it's a fun way to be able to gamble on these races and not break the bank for a decent little payout. I mean, normally I do 3 or 4 lineups since I started doing these, and consistently I'll spend $2 or $3 unless I do a $9 buy-in. And every week but one, we have won at least our money back. I won a little bit, way more than my money back, a couple 100%. On a $1 buy-in that Ryan set the lineup for me at Atlanta, so I appreciate that. But yeah, this is, like I said, a very fun way to be able to gamble on these races, and really, it's fun to think about the possibilities as well. So you got
The way
5.
that I look at this lineup, Joe, Kevin Harvick and Denny Hamlin both, I believe, finished 1-2 next to each other last year at this track, at least in the spring race, if I
Yes.
remember correctly. And you need a little bit of volatility. This is a tournament, okay? How do you separate yourself from the next 6,000 other people in it? And I think you got to take people like Eric Almirola, Josh Berry, and Brad Keselowski. They're already this far down. Again, we talked a little bit about with Ryan Blaney last week, okay? And unfortunately, he just kept finding ways to wreck. But starting next to last or last week, you don't need a lot from Eric Almirola to do well.
Right.
And look at this, and you got to look at this list down here. I mean, literally 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There's 7 drivers I immediately like better than Eric Almirola. Okay, and there's only 36 people starting, so that puts you at 29th. If as long as he doesn't wreck on the very beginning of the race, then Eric Almirola is going to finish better and earn you some points that way. If he finishes 20th, that's not a great day for a driver. It is in this when you make up 12 spots, because it's a hell of a lot harder to make up 12 spots, 10 spots being 11th, working your way to first, because, again, you might as well just go ahead and play what you're getting ready to talk about, the bets. But it's not that much different or that much more difficult to make up 15 spots and end up finishing 17th, and you still get those points from that. And I think this is a type of lineup that going into it, if these guys do what they're supposed to do, finish in the top 5, top 6, and these guys finish anywhere near the top 15, you had a hell of a day.
Well, and I will say, I think one of the biggest things when you're talking about your bottom two drivers, or really any of your drivers, because it can really screw you that way. Um, you gotta let me know when you stop sharing your screen. We just had a infinite screen.
Sorry.
It's all right. Uh,
Ah,
but with your bottom two drivers in the fantasy, as long as they don't lose you points, like you said, as long as they don't wreck out on the first lap, lose an engine, and you don't go in the red on points with them, they're doing their job, I think. So what'll really kill you is when you spend, you take a Kyle Larson for 14,000 and he decides to wreck on the fourth lap. That'll kill your day. But you still, I think one of my main drivers a couple races ago actually wrecked out in the first stage, and I ended up finishing in the money. So you could still make those points up, especially if something like that happens and one of your lower two drivers end up finishing in the top 5 or top 10, which is what happened. So you can make some really good points up that way.
now moving on to you, Joe. Typically, we like to throw out some dark horses and things of that nature when it comes to making straight line bets and in top fives. I feel like this could be a really boring week when it comes to choosing good drivers. Maybe you'll have something spicy for me, but when I look at things,
Right.
I try to do the KISS method, and I think this week is just keep it simple, stupid.
It really is, and that's what even and I was going to caveat the fantasy lineups. As far and you're about to see some odds that you're just like what for NASCAR races. So typically, when you run a short track and you're more than a casual fan of NASCAR, you understand that there are certain drivers that just know how to drive on short tracks, and there's certain drivers that aren't going to do well. And that's typically why when we pick drivers for short tracks on our weekly show, we're usually pretty close or even tied. I think we would have had 5 out of 5 of the same drivers this week if I didn't switch one. So, and there's a reason for that. But let's get into what I'm going to give you as the top 5 best bets for tomorrow's race at Richmond. And no surprise, the first one's going to be William Byron. Now, William Byron is obviously the favorite for this race. He's at what do we have there? Plus 550 plus 550 to win, which that's typically what you see between plus 400 and plus 600 for the favorite of any NASCAR race. But what really gets me here, and I'm going to advise on William Byron, if you're going to put money down on him, you bet on him to win. Because when you start looking to finish in the top 3 or top 5, he's only a plus 160 to finish in the top 3. Now, if you can get a top 3 finish, that's great. But at plus 160 odds, that risk is way too astronomical for me to put any money down. And any time, and for him to finish in the top 5 is at minus 145. Anytime I ever see minus odds in a NASCAR race, that's not a good bet. It doesn't matter who it is. It doesn't matter if there's only 3 cars in the race. If you see minus odds in a NASCAR race, do not bet that line. So William Byron is obviously the Vegas favorite this week, and as I often say, sometimes you just have to listen to Vegas, and that's the case here as well, because they get it right, and they get it right for a reason. There's a reason why there's all kinds of bright, flashy lights on the Vegas Strip. They know what they're doing. The odds compilers know exactly what they're doing. William Byron has a great shot to win this race tomorrow. So let's move on.
And then on top of that, Joe, Vegas also is a lot less uncertain, giving you $200 more this week than they did last week for Tyler Reddick being the favorite at
Right.
COTA. They do not feel nearly as confident with William Byron because Tyler Reddick was plus 350, and we're like, wow, that's
Right.
pretty low. Now they've almost swung it all the way back to where this could pretty much be anybody's race, and I agree with Vegas on that.
Yeah,
for the favorites.
Yeah, it can, and the reason for that is we saw a road course last week, and other than the turn 1 contact, you don't see much contact unless it's in a turn and more of a pit style maneuver. These cars are going to beat the hell out of each other tomorrow, and when automobiles, even NASCAR, when next gen car starts beating the hell out of each other, you can run into some problems. Next driver on my list this week he's actually the co-favorite, and Kevin Harvick. Now, exact same odds as William Byron, and I have the exact same advice. But Kevin Harvick got his last win, I believe, at Richmond last year. So, This is one of his best chances, I think, to win a race in his final season, and he's going to do everything he can to win this race tomorrow. If you're going to put money on Kevin Harvick, I think he's going to be near the top all day long. I think he's going to get there. He knows how to pass on this track. He knows how to run at this track. Bet him to win if you're going to put money. Stay away from the plus 160 and the minus 145 lines. Those aren't going to pay out as much anyway, and you're still almost you're still risking. It's almost the same amount of risk as it is to bet him to win. So I would say if a driver can finish in the top three, he has just as good a chance winning at Richmond as anybody else in the top three, if that makes
On
sense.
our weekly show, Joe, we talked about what it takes to win here. It takes good pit strategy, and it takes a really good crew chief. And Rodney Childers for him is that. And if I was putting my money on anybody, it would be Kevin Harvick for those reasons alone.
Right. So I don't think this one's any surprise as well. Next driver, sorry, that's Kevin Harvick again. Next driver's obviously going to be Kyle Busch. Plus 900 to win. I really like these odds at plus 900 to win. And I really like the plus 280 odds to finish in the top three. That's going to be a little bit of a payout, I think. I mean, Kyle Busch has been near the top in every race this season, unless Daniel Suarez gets in the way. So Kyle Busch is going to be there as long as he doesn't have any trouble with his car. These are really good lines. I wouldn't even shy away from the plus 130 to finish in the top five because I think that he's showed up with a top five car every week, and I think that that's almost a gift. Those lines are almost a gift, but it's still NASCAR. There's still plus odds, and there's still all kinds of variables that go along with racing here.
Speeding on pit road.
Speeding on pit road, running out of gas. Next driver, I think that this one is a gift from the gambling gods. And I kind of steered you this way with Martin Truex. Martin Truex won either 2020 or 2021 here. He runs typically very well at this track. I think he's going to run well tomorrow. He's at plus 1,000 odds to win. That's a huge payout. That's a huge payout to win a race that he can win. Plus 300 to finish in the top three. He's got better odds, almost better odds than we saw last week for the favorite to finish in the top three. These are good lines. If you're going to risk money, these are good lines that are going to pay off. So, I will personally be betting on Martin Truex for tomorrow's race to win and to finish in the top three. Not that I will be rooting for him. I just think it's a smart bet. So let's move on. Try to wrap this up here pretty quickly. Obviously, the last driver in the top five this week is going to be Brad Keselowski. Brad Keselowski knows how to run here. He's got a couple wins here. And if you look at that line, plus 3,000 to win, that makes you happy. If you put $10 on that, that's going to make you happy. That's a $300 payout. And a past winner here that's been running real well all season, I think you have to be absolutely crazy not to throw some money Brad Keselowski's way tomorrow. So that's going to finish out my top five. I will say every week, at least one of these guys will win you money. So if you want to win money, I would advise maybe throwing some money on some of these guys.
Yeah, and if you do it the way that Joe and I typically talk about, and that's put, whatever you're comfortable with, sprinkle it all on those. Don't put $100. We typically don't put $100 on one driver. We'd rather put 10 on 5.
Yeah.
And with this week's payouts, you're going to make money regardless if you do that.
Yeah.
So, it's not going to be a lot if it's the favorite that wins. Maybe you try to split it if you like Kevin Harvick more so than William Byron. The thing about this is you talked about three guys that are going to make you a chunk of change. I mean, we're talking, a good sized car payment there, Joe, right, for a nice payoff for $10.
Well, and what you're looking at plus 550 to win for the favorite of Kevin Harvick and William Byron. You take 5 drivers, you throw $10 on every one of them. You hit that favorite winner, you're at least making your money back, and normally that's a good day gambling, because gambling's supposed to be fun. For the vast majority of us, we don't make our living gambling. We do it so we can become more vested in the sport that we're watching, and it makes it a lot more fun to watch and participate in. You feel like you're actually a participant of the sport. So that's the point of gambling. I don't advise anybody trying to make their house payment from, I'm not saying go throw $30,000 on William Byron to win. I don't think that that's very smart, especially when you're dealing with plus odds, unless you're, what's that guy's name? Mattress Joe or whatever?
Mattress Mac.
Mattress Mac. Yeah. He seems to lose a lot.
Yeah, he definitely has a, a lot of a lot more money, Joe, than we can do. And what he doesn't have is this show.
Right.
So
Yeah. He
maybe
should
if he
start
listened to
watching us.
us,
Yeah.
yeah, he could make a lot more money. Granted, he makes more money selling mattresses than we do doing this show.
Right.
But
Yeah. Yeah. That's true. But you heard it here. Mattress Mac, you want to make some money? Listen to us. We'll make you some money.
yeah, we'll definitely do a plug, the Mattress Mac money line of the week or something of that nature. So there's our shameless plug for this show. But that's going to do it. Hopefully, you find yourself finding something like this to bet upon and, more importantly, make some money on. It's another way, again, to enjoy the race on top of it, because there's nothing better than 30 laps in pulling your hair out because Eric Almirola just wrecked into the wall. So,
For no reason.
for no reason at all. So that's going to do it for us here. This has been Stuck in the Catch Fence. So let's all make some money together tomorrow.